everybody, and welcome to Adobe MAX. My name is Flynn, and if you just saw the last live stream, I was on that side of the desk, and now I'm on this side of the desk. And now on that side of the desk is Sophie Elinor. Hi, Sophie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Sorry, I stole your seat.
It's all right. It's all good. I'm much more comfortable being this hosting thing. I was interrupting Johanna, like trying to host myself as we were doing the thing. It was outrageous. Hope you're all having a fantastic Adobe MAX. If you have questions for Sophie as we go along, we're only here for 25 minutes, so get them in chat as soon as you can, and I'll do my best. There's 3 different chats today to keep an eye on all of them and ask those questions over to Sophie. But let's kick off. Sophie Elinor, who are you and what do you do?
Oh gosh, it's a very existential question to begin with, isn't it?
Why, Sophie Elinor?
What is the meaning of life? Why are we here? I am a graphic designer and typographer, but I mostly just call myself a type dork.
Yeah, perfect.
I am obsessed with all things lettering related. And that sometimes looks like illustration, sometimes it's visual art or craft or stop motion, or often it's a lot of 2D animation. A lot of my work is quite colourful. I'm drawn to very heavily saturated colour palettes. Just brings me a lot of joy, and I just love that kind of thing. And I guess also like thematically a lot of my work kind of centres around like play and humour and yeah.
Cool. I just realised we probably have the opposite wardrobes. Like everything I own is complete monotone.
Grey and black?
It's grey and black. That's all I
no.
own.
Mine is organised in rainbow order.
Oh my god. It's incredible.
Is it a yellow kind of day? I don't know. Do we go pink pants? Yeah.
I'm like, grey or dark grey? These are the questions.
I mean, that's probably saving a lot of mental load at the start of the day, right?
And
It's like,
I
it's
need
grey
everything I can get.
Yeah.
And you're here not only because you're lots of fun to hang out and talk to, and you're a regular on Adobe Live whenever we can get you on, and we've got all sorts of tutorials that we've done before with things like this as well. But you were also a speaker at Adobe MAX, and it's weird because it's like you're going to be a speaker or you were a speaker is both true because you've recorded everything, but it airs tomorrow.
And also because time is a flat circle.
Right.
So yeah.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, my session is happening tomorrow, which I'm very excited about. Super stoked to be part of MAX this year.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and we might bring it up, Chad. We might switch over to look how quick Chad is. I love having someone else pressing the buttons. It's great. It's usually me at home kind of doing everything terribly. But this is the title of your talk. It's going to be in the online version of Adobe MAX, which will be airing tomorrow. Add it to your schedule. Make sure you don't miss it. Do you want to give us a little bit of an elevator pitch?
Sure. So this is a breakout session for someone who's maybe thinking about getting into animation.
Yes, perfect.
And the general gist of it is I'm going to open up 2 different doors to animation for you. One is through Photoshop and one is through After Effects. And I'm going to take one design and animate it 2 different ways. So just kind of breaking down, I guess, a bit of a barrier. Animation can sometimes be seen as a bit of a scary sort of a beast for people.
Sure, yeah.
But, you know, if you're already using Photoshop, you kind of already know your way around the software. I'll show you a really simple way to get started with that. And then show you how a lot of that is 10 times faster if you try and do it in After Effects.
Right.
If you're brave enough to crack open the software.
If you get over that kind of hump, right? Like you break into it.
Yeah.
Very cool. I like that. Yeah. And it's great to get into animation. You know, you might know Photoshop really super well. And then adding animation is like a very good entry level kind of thing. Yeah. Plus you have the stop frame stuff. It always looks awesome too.
It's so fun to do also. Like it's just a really fun thing to play around with. And yeah, like maybe you're an illustrator, maybe you're kind of more in layout, maybe you do web stuff. Like there's so many different applications for it. So it can kind of fold into whatever your practice is.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that. So this is the session announcement as well. And then I'm not plugging my own Instagram. Don't follow me.
Like
it's
and
boring.
subscribe.
But I was trying to figure out the one way that we could actually see the animation that you've used. And this is my version of doing that, which is this Play More one. So we're getting super meta. But that's the animation. There you go. You can find it. You can find it on Instagram on Giphy if you search Sophie Elinor.
Yeah. So that design is the one that I kind of demo in tomorrow's session.
Yeah.
So that's we do it in Photoshop to start with, and then not Illustrator, in After Effects.
Yeah.
But then I kind of take it and we can make gift stickers out of it, or we can create it into a stop motion, or you can, integrate it with video. There's like heaps of different ways you can kind of take that sort of starting point and then run with it.
And that's the thing. So we might switch back over to the camera problems. Oh, that was the outro. Bye, everyone. No, we got a little bit longer. But I just want to make sure that I can see chat and everything like that. Hi, Robert. Hello, Oliver. Duck Hours as well in the chat, and Richard, all the way from Michigan. That's great. But yeah, if you guys have questions in chat as we're going along, let us know. Are we getting Inception? No. So yeah, I'm going to go down to my very first question, which I'm getting to. So I've had the pleasure of actually seeing your talk. So we're actually going to do a couple of sneak peeks. I picked a couple of things from your talk that I thought are really interesting that you kind of gloss over fairly quickly because, again, it's a short session. So you mentioned learning from a typographer called Wayne, who just happened to also live in Newcastle. Which is funny because I knew Wayne before I knew you. But anyway, showing how old I am. How important do you think mentorship was for you and other creators?
It's been hugely pivotal for me. I didn't really set out to acquire a mentor. I didn't go to the mentor market and go, I want that one. Wayne and I just kind of met because Newcastle is a small place and the typography circles in Newcastle are even smaller sort of thing. And so we just crossed paths. And similar kind of humour sensibilities, interested in the same sort of type stuff. He had a fair bit of work going on at that time, and so he just said, do you want to come and help out? I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go work at the Australian Type Foundry. So cool. Nice. And it just kind of went from there. But it's kind of on reflection, having had a mentor to not just show me some design stuff and give me a bit of a grounding in typography broadly, but just having someone, because I didn't come up in agency land, it's just kind of freelancing and doing in-house stuff. So having someone who was already really well established, who kind of knew the lay of the land and could just vouch for me personally as well, in an industry where word of mouth is really everything, having someone that people respect and know and who can say, she's okay, she'll be good. Yeah, take a chance, or she might be young, but she's really, passionate, or look at this great work, and, exactly.
We all need that help at the start. Yeah,
I think so. It's been, I owe quite a lot to Wayne, really. It's been, pivotal.
Cool. Hope you're watching, Wayne. Well, I think that's something that I've seen increasingly over, many years of being involved in the creative industry. Is it used, in my opinion, a lot of the time it used to be you would work for an agency and then you kind of would ping pong from agency to agency, and that's how you would kind of level up in terms of salary and experience and, kind of grow as a creator. But increasingly, I've seen so many more people start out freelance and stay freelance. So there's this lack of looking over your shoulder kind of industry knowledge and camaraderie. So a lot of it's digital. So I feel like that mentorship thing, it could just be so incredibly valuable.
And I think also as just speaking for myself here, as someone who is terrible at networking and is just the cringiest in terms of schmoozing and stuff like that, having that person who kind of already has those connections and you can just kind of ride the coattails a little bit and just be okay, I'm here, this person knows me, we're good, sort of thing. Yeah, definitely made a big difference.
Definitely helps. And it probably helped your confidence a lot. Yeah. That even if you weren't super aware of it at the time, there's the practical aspect, but then it's also oh yeah, I could totally do this. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's, from the early days, quite a few email exchanges between Wayne and I where I'm I don't know if I'm good enough, I don't know, maybe I should pay them to do the work, and then I'll just, get it that way. It's calm down, you're being silly, it's all good.
Will they get angry if I invoice them for the agreed amount?
I'm so sorry.
I'd love that idea. I love the idea of designing an invoice just being super apologetic, I'm sorry, Sophie, Elinor.
Deepest regards, sincerest apologies.
Oh my God, there's a good idea in that. I'm gonna do something with that. That's great. Let's go back to typography to animation, because I'm trying to kind of map out your career, right? Graphic design kind of bit of multimedia in there as well, I think.
Yeah.
And then sort of going really hard in that type direction, right? You've got this great mentor, you're super into it, you're still into it, right?
Yeah.
So where did moving things...
I feel like I was a very late bloomer in terms of coming to animation. I was probably doing, just type-based stuff and just graphic design broadly for probably, 5 or 6 years after I graduated. I'd always been kind of interested in animation. I was always like, oh, that's really cool. That looks very hard though, so I'll just keep doing my thing over here. But a friend of mine who is really good at animation just kind of sat down with me one day and was like, do you want me to just show you this one thing?
Right.
And it was trim paths in
like
After
one trick?
Effects. One trick,
Yeah.
which you and I have talked about many times before.
Yep.
And it fully just opened up After Effects in particular to me. Before then, I'd kind of dabbled with like stop motion because that's, it's an easy link to go from, static illustration to stop motion. It's just like a flip book kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, kind of transitioning into this sort of like keyframe world was a bit of a leap for me. But yeah, just having that one little entry point where I figured out one kind of tool, it's like, oh, I could actually use this in 1,000 different ways.
Right.
And because I already had all this kind of typography knowledge built up, I could draw on that quite a lot. And then, I was like, oh, well, I figured out this tool. Maybe if I just play around and... Yeah, the more I learnt, the more motivated I became to just kind of keep going with it. And it just, it continues to snowball. Every time I jump in there, I'm like, oh, what can I learn today? What's the new sort of little flavour I'm going to add in here?
And then there's things like Max, and it's like, hey, here's some new toys. And you're like, oh my God, I felt like I just only caught up to everything. Just got on top of everything
now.
Yeah. Also, AI, here you go.
Oh, holy smokes.
Let's jump in. Yes, it is constantly changing. So yeah, just before I move on, just extending from that again, do you have any tips for anyone to keep on top of that sort of thing? Or are you like...
On top of like the ever-changing
landscape of creativity, being a creator, creating content, time...
Yeah, that's
having a rainbow wardrobe.
Yeah, that one I do have specific
You've
tips.
got that
Yeah,
down.
Take
okay.
a swatch palette with you everywhere. No, I don't do that. I don't do that. I think probably the thing is just keeping yourself interested, right? You're never going to be on top of every little thing. You're not going to be the expert in every piece of software that ever existed. But if you're keen to just create your own stuff and keep building, like even whether you've got a paying client or not, if you're just making stuff that's for fun, then I feel like that's kind of the secret ingredient, right? To just actually wanting to turn up and do the work and figure stuff out and have a play and all those things.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I love there's a whole thread of playfulness throughout almost everything you do. That's lovely. Okay, so I've got another question here. Reminder that you can throw in your questions in chat. Chad, can you come over and just fix this monitor so I can get the other chat? We've had 3 chats happening at the moment. One's just decided to disappear. So if you wouldn't mind, it's on the...
Could we possibly set up a 4th chat?
And just a latte while you're at it. So if there's any questions in there, I may have missed it because I think it timed out. But back to our conversation. This is live. It's super live. So you're mostly self-taught. I thought I was so smart when I wrote these down because I was just like, I know these off the top of my head. And I'm like, what did you write? You're mostly self-taught. What advice would you give to those who want to add animation to their toolkit? We spoke about mentorship, but is there anything else around? Like, what would you do today?
Yeah.
As well as another way you could kind of answer that question.
Is it too soon to spruik? Just come to my session tomorrow.
No, absolutely.
Come to my session tomorrow.
Yeah.
There will be
because that's pretty much what it
there.
is, right? Like it's kind of dissecting 2 different options of getting in from an entry level.
Yeah. I think the way that I always try and look at it is like you're just placing a brick down, right? You are building a wall. Like animation is a big structure kind of thing, but if you're just looking at one little brick instead of the whole thing, then it's a little bit less scary and it's a little bit less overwhelming. So just kind of breaking it down into, you don't have to learn the entirety of the software in one day. You can just try this one little tip, or take an existing artwork that you have and maybe you can just put a little bit of motion here or there in it. Just start small.
That's cool.
And kind of build up from there, because if you freak yourself out trying to do this grand kind of masterpiece from scratch, if you're trying to run before you can walk, I guess, then you're going to just like fall over and not want to do it.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess the other thing that I always try and do is just sort of switch from work into play mode
Right.
a little bit.
Mm.
Yeah, I find that if I'm trying to learn something new and I'm like, it's not for a client, I'm just trying to learn this for fun and see where it goes. I don't know what the end result is going to be. I'm just going to have a play and see what happens. Then I'm a bit less stressed about like, oh my God, I'm losing money, I'm losing time. The client's going to be like calling me and So it is, I can appreciate that that's like a bit of a luxury to be able to like make that time for play. But I do think it's the thing that like time and time again is what has like kept me motivated and kept me inspired and just leveled my skills up as well.
Yeah.
You know, not everyone has a job where they're like, no, just like go and take the time for career development or whatever.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And that was my next question was, do you give yourself that time or are you allowed that time just with the way that, you know, you operate? Like, where does that come from?
It's not, I don't have like
where do I get
schedule.
time? I want more time, Sophie.
Oh gosh. I don't have like a calendar with regimented like playtime scheduled for that, you know, like I'm just not that organized.
Yeah.
But I will just try and fit it in when I can, you know, if I'm at the end of the day and I had some random silly epiphany walking to get lunch, then I'll spend a couple hours seeing what I can make of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that as well is just don't expect to have like a full 3-month long like Stefan Sagmeister sabbatical style of thing where you can just have the luxury of all this time, like just fit it in when you can, do a couple hours here and there. Like
Don't kick yourself if you missed it this week kind of thing as well.
Yeah, I think so.
That's cool. Stefan Sagmeister, like deep cut, like reference. That's amazing. That's great. So I'm going to move on to another one of the questions. We can see you, by the way, Adobe MAX chat as well. Johanna, Cecil, Nathaniel, Denise, Joseph as well. If anyone has any questions as we're going along, you're stuck with mine. There we go. Oh, okay, cool. There are some questions, thank you. Apologies that we missed a couple of them. So the question from Alex, thank you for the question. How do you find the balance of paid work and playtime, and do you ever feel burned out as a creative?
I think, the burnout is very real, especially this time of year. Do you find like October is fully just burnout season for you?
With everybody and even getting people like on Adobe Live or to do things that they're like, I guess. I can hear how tired you are from how you signed off in your email.
You're like, thanks so much for the opportunity. God.
Yes, exactly right.
I think, not to just like kind of go back to what I was saying already, but I think really play is the thing that combats that sort of burnout a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just making time. Like if you're not having fun with it, then it is gonna feel like chore or like work. And so just picking something, like a lot of my personal projects or passion projects that I do on the side, they're just sort of dumb, they're not highbrow. It's just like a silly joke or, I don't know, a reference to something, to butts, or like it doesn't need to be super serious. If you're having fun with it, then I think that is sort of the counterbalance to all of that very serious deadline, client-oriented stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. And the butt wasn't a random thing. There's a whole project on butts that you have to go check out.
I did a full, for anyone who knows the 36 Days of Type challenge, I last year did a, it was on butts. My theme was butts. I called it the alpha butt. You understand.
Alpha butt was awesome. I love it so much. I'm going to try and get to some of these questions because I did miss them. Thank you for throwing them in, and sorry for the delay. We did that one. Express is not so bad. I like that. Thanks, Robert. That's so great. So Johanna has added the link in there, but for anyone that wants to know what time Sophie's session is, it's at 3:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, or you can follow the link. Johanna has shared a link in chat, and that should update to your local time, because obviously you could be anywhere in the world reading this right now. I know there's some folks from Turkey and Finland and Idaho, which is super awesome. So great to have you here. I'm just popping through to see if there's any more questions. So just talk amongst yourself, Sophie, I guess. Okay, cool. just don't want everyone to miss out because we had the technical thing. But yeah, that's great. I've got to move on to my next one. Repeat your question if I missed it in chat. If you don't mind, we've got 5 minutes left. You demonstrated animation in Photoshop and another in After Effects, right? Which we spoke about a little bit. Yeah. Fourth tease for your session. Do you have a favorite? And kind of an extra sort of question is like, or do clients have a favorite, or what do you find you're spending your most time in?
Yeah, I probably do tend to lean more towards After Effects because it is often a bit quicker. Yeah. And for longer form animations as well, keyframing is just often so much faster than drawing every single frame like you would in Photoshop. Yeah. Photoshop, like, obviously is a pixel-based program, so you're using pixels. You have, like, at your fingertips everything that Photoshop can do. So you've got all those beautiful textures, and you've got, all of every kind of photo editing you could possibly want mixed in there. Whereas, in After Effects, it doesn't deal exclusively with vectors, but it handles them really well. So I often find that I'm doing more crisp, kind of smoother styles of animations in After Effects. Often, though, I find myself using both kind of together because sometimes I can only achieve like a certain effect in Photoshop and it's just easier to blend the two. So sometimes, if I want like a really smooth animation to happen in one part, I'll maybe rough that out in After Effects and then bring that into Photoshop and kind of get a bit more texture and crunchiness and all that sort of stuff in there. So it's nice to kind of know the limitations of both and bring one in when the other one kind of can't quite get there. Yeah.
You probably use Illustrator quite a bit too, I think, as well. I use Illustrator for everything. You often start with the type, like it's a whole nother demo, but often start with the type in Illustrator and kind of map out sort of the beginning and the end or something like that. Yeah. And then bring it into After Effects and start animating.
Yeah. So especially when I'm doing, actually for both, whether I'm in Photoshop or After Effects, I will always start in Illustrator. And as you said, often we'll like do a bit of a storyboard there just so I kind of know where I'm going with things. Yeah. But then just kind of mixing all three to get the best of every single possible bit of software. Yeah.
Perfect. I love that. Chad, can we have the animation again just on the back in case people missed it? We'll go out with that. We've got a few more questions. We're going to do rapid fire questions.
All right, let's
Jimmy
go.
Kimmel up in here. Trim Pass is everyone's gateway drug. What's your favourite After Effects tool? This is from Thomas in chat.
Do you know what? I still love Trim Pass.
Yeah,
I still use it all the time.
Cool.
It has so many different uses. Like, it's awesome. And you don't need any plugins. Like, path animation is also a really fun thing, especially if you're bringing stuff in from Illustrator. Yeah. So just playing with the path property is like, you can achieve a lot with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great question. Great answer. And another question for Sophie from Anush. Apologies if I pronounce that incorrectly. What kind of external inspirations help your creative work?
That's a big question too. Like everything, just going to an art gallery, going for a walk outside, watching a dumb cartoon, listening to music, listening to podcasts. Like, I try and steer clear of other typographic references because you're kind of just feeding on a smaller pool. So I think if you're going like really far at casting a really wide net for inspiration, then what you bring back into your little niche kind of medium is going to be a bit more unique rather than just sort of repeating other stuff you've already seen. Yeah, in that same field. Yeah. One time I went to the chemist and that inspired an animation. All the coloured like tags on everything. I was like, I can make an animation out of this. So I don't know, like.
That's awesome. I love that. We've only got a minute left, but I just someone else answered your question for you, which was butts.
Butts.
What's your inspiration?
Oh my God. Just butts, obviously. How did I? Such an oversight on my part. I'm so sorry.
That was awesome. We are out of time. Thank you for the questions. I hope we got to at least most of them there. Thank you, Sophie, so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
And don't forget to catch her session. It's on tomorrow. Go search it, Sophie Elinor, and we'll see you back here on Adobe Live in 5 minutes. Bye.